Hey, feeling good, like I should. When in dark, walk around the neighborhood, feeling blessed.
Hey guys, it's Natalie again with chapter 2.2. How and why did international tensions remain high in the period between 1920 and 1923? Let's start with the crises and tensions during this time. So, even though World War I ended in 1918, peace did not arrive as quickly. There were a lot of years of tension and conflicts, and the main reason for this was because the countries were not satisfied with the peace treaties, especially Germany with the Treaty of Versailles feeling like it was being treated very unfairly and punished too harshly. Also, we now have Russia in the equation, which is now ruled by a communist government and has not been invited to any of these peace talks. And also the United States just made things worse because they decided not to sign the Treaty of Versailles, and France and Britain felt abandoned and without their support. Also during this time, a lot of European countries were fearful that communism from Russia would start spreading into Europe. These fears became stronger because communist parties started growing in places like Germany and Italy. In Italy, we know Benito Mussolini. He began a fascist party, took control, and turned Italy into a dictatorship in 1922. And along with Italy's refusal to follow the peace settlement, this just added to more and more tensions. Another big problem during this time was Germany's economy, because since they had to pay so many reparations, the country's money lost a lot of value, and this led to hyperinflation. And by the year 1923, a loaf of bread costed over 2 million marks, which was the currency at the time, I guess. And the crisis got worse when France and Belgium invaded the Ruhr, which was a rich industrial area in Germany, but Germany missed a payment, so they retaliated and they invaded it because they were annoyed at Germany. And yeah, this made German workers go on a strike, and it made the economy even worse. And it also made relations between France and Britain worse, because Britain did not know about the invasion, because France is just a little, they just literally hate Germany, oh my god. Anyway, Italy, the fear of communism led to more violence. There were prices rising, jobs were hard to find, a lot of unemployment, a lot of soldiers coming home after the war. The workers were angry, and Mussolini's fascist party was growing faster and faster, and he had already taken power. Also, the Corfu incident happened, which was when Italian troops bombed and occupied a Greek island because of a border conflict, and Mussolini's refusal to obey the League of Nations made many countries worried about peace in Europe. The aims and impact of international treaties and conferences. While the tensions were rising, there were also world leaders still trying to put effort into getting peace. One of these most notable efforts is the Washington Naval Conference. The United States invited other world powers to meet and talk about reducing their navies to avoid tensions between the military and the navies, especially with Japan, since they were rapidly modernizing theirs this time. And several treaties were signed to reduce battleships and promise peace in Asia. However, not all the types of ships were included, so countries found ways to bend the rules because they always want to do that. And then a second one is we have the Genoa Conference, and it was meant to help European countries recover economically, especially Germany. But everyone was invited to this: France, Britain, Germany, Soviet Russia. But they failed because France didn't want to cooperate, and they did not want to lower Germany's reparations at all. And the USA didn't even go, which was pretty rude of them. And Germany felt really hopeless, and they just left the meeting. So basically this meeting was for nothing. The Genoa Conference did nothing. It was just useless. And yeah, Russia was isolated. And Germany also felt alone because everyone was against them. So they signed the Rapallo Act, and this treaty helped them trade and secretly work together and improve their military training, even though it went against the Treaty of Versailles. and a lot of like Western countries were very concerned about this. Lastly, there was also the Treaty of Lausanne. Sorry, I don't know how to say it, but basically it was with Turkey, and they they refused to accept the earlier treaty that took away the land, and they fought back, won territory, and forced a new one to be signed so they could like have peace. And this showed that some countries like could challenge the Paris Peace Conference, and that wasn't like the final settlement. Like they could still like negotiate. So now we have the changing relations between the major powers. The years right after the war brought major changes in how the countries got along. USA like didn't really want to be involved with Europe anymore. They refused to join the League of Nations and would only get involved if it protected their own interests. This made them feel like abandoned once again. And France and Britain like disagreed multiple times on how to treat Germany, because Britain like didn't want them to be so economically ruined, but like France just wanted like terrible things for Germany. And this made like France more angry, and like it ended up invading the Ruhr. Russia also became like a major concern during this time, since they were becoming communist, and a lot of the Europeans did not like that. Yeah. And then countries like Britain began trading with Russia again, and like other countries saw this as a threat. I don't know, there was a lot of confusing times in this era. Sorry, I'm like losing my voice. Conclusion: by the end of 1919 and 1923, international peace was not like achieved at this time, hence the heartbreak emoji. But there was like a lot of economic problems, fear of communism, the countries didn't trust each other, and basically like while they tried to have the conferences and sign treaties, like the agreements didn't always work out. And yeah, the tensions will just continue to grow. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.